some people some time in here as I queue up a few things on the laptop to switch through, because that is critical. Ethereum mining hash rate. We're going to keep track of what's going on in the hash rate. And Ravencoin mining. Let's get some folks in here. Open format, going to talk today what's going on this week in and around BBT. A lot going on. This is going to be a super busy week. Cannot wait to get into this week, actually. Twitch is set to a 30-second delay. Yeah, it should come in. I'm getting thumbs up from everybody. It looks like we're live and we're good. Yep. Yeah, Twitch is set to a delay. And I don't think anybody's actually seen any videos with us with these new mics yet, because everything's been pre set up. That's going to be coming out this week. Afternoon says high speed miner. New miner here from Mr. Foddy. Is it Foddy? Yeah. Congratulations on mining, my dude. It is quite the adventure. How are we? Everyone says Kiwi miner. Doing really well, man. Super busy, like always, but good week coming up. And we're going to go through that today. We're going to go through what's going on in the mining scene in general. We're going to go through, I got some GPUs here that we're going to be doing some reviewing on, and like where do they run in the stack? How do we maintenance things? That kind of stuff. We're going to have a whole bunch of different good content-rich videos this week covering the latest stack of tech in the mining space when it comes to GPU. We're also going to have a ASIC that I'm covering this week. I'm going to be covering the iPolo G1 Mini and the performance that that's had just here. Cost, price, how you can get it. If you're interested in the Grin algorithm or Grin coin with its algorithm, what was that? Cockatoo 32 that it does. There's a whole bunch of fun this week. I'm going out to Crypto World out here in the St. Louis area. That will be I don't know if I'm going to broadcast live from there. I'm checking out the scenario this week, actually. Their Tone Vase is going to be there. Bitcoin Ben, a couple other people that live around this particular area in St. Louis. They're going to be out there filming and stuff and recording. I don't know if that network connection can take all of our streams at the same time. So I'm definitely going out there with a camera. I may go live stream. I may just put some stuff out on Twitter and then have a recap video of what they're trying to do on with this, brick and mortar location, talking Bitcoin mining, talking crypto mining. I had built a rig for them that's in the store. I'm going to bring a rig out with me when I'm out there. I'm going to be talking to people out there in St. Louis and Crypto World, and I'll send out a tweet of where that's at and when that's starting on Tuesday. So we're going to be covering that, and it's cool. I mean, it's a physical location. They're going to have like coffee meetups for people to learn cryptocurrency in general, talk crypto. It's not just all Bitcoin centric. I know Tone Boys is going to be there, and Tone's going to be real heavy on the Bitcoin piece of it, which is great. But there's other tokens out there that people, YOLO into, and hopefully some people can sway them away from some of them, but and talk some sense into people. But there are a lot of interested people, so interested in the space, and it's cool to have somewhere near me that has some people that are wanted to set up something. So we're gonna do that this week. Again, we have these cards that we're going to go through. So we have the Oris Master 3080 Ti. You guys seen us do kind of a review with the newbie series on this, but I never did a proper review of that. Also, we have the new 3090 here, which is ROG Strix, Asus Republica Gaming 3090 here. We're going to be looking at and possibly switching out the thermal pads on. If I do that, if these need thermal pad adjustments, which more than likely they do, I will do that as part of the newbie series with BBT Ray, and we will do that live. So I will walk you guys through a teardown of this card, like straight up Gamers Nexus style. We'll clean everything up. We'll go through, and we'll probably put indium on this and the new thermal pads. So we'll go through that for this 3090. That'll be a teardown review with that. I'm also wanting to do that with the RX 470 Polaris cards, kind of give you guys insight on what we do at the BBT mining farm. So how we clean things up. People have asked about the ultrasonic cleaner and how we ultrasonic clean stuff with the Branson EC fluid. And, you know, how many times can you do that? Can you filter out any of that fluid and all that kind of stuff? Like if you get particulates and stuff in there. I want to take you guys through that process. You guys have asked a lot of questions. I've had more emails on that particular subject than even general mining lately, because people are looking at, how do I clean old cards? Like, how do I genuinely clean an old card and restore it back to almost new and get those thermals under control over time, you know, and possibly even fix potential issues that you've had over time. If you have a card, I'm talking like, you know, GTX 1060, 3 gig, 6 gig GPUs, 1070 SC edition, like EVGAs that had issues with like the thermal pads and the, you know, the VRMs overheating and the cores getting really hot, because now you probably have, you know, calcified almost your heatsink material. How to clean those up, go through that process. That'll be a separate video also. I'm talking, these are the next 6 days worth of videos. So we're going to try to get most things recorded this week. We've done a lot of studio upgrades. I would like in the next couple weeks, we're going to show you guys kind of the studio upgrade setup that we have. BBT Vanessa's worked really hard on getting things ready for it and set up. So she'll give me a thumbs up. So we'll take you through, I'll have her take you guys through kind of what we've done. So if you are a miner, you're a crypto miner, you thought about creating some content, come join us. Come join the community and start making it. You know, you can start with a phone. You can just start with a normal cell phone, record your content, make a YouTube video, show people like, hey, here's what I've learned. All of us learn from each other. That's what's awesome about the GPU mining community, is people all learn from each other. I watch a lot of the other folks' videos. I see Red Fox Crypto here. Welcome, my dude. You know, watching all of each other's videos and seeing each other's experiences, because for a whole range of reasons, like some people get different cards, they have different settings. It's good to have a large community that you can sample from, right? To see, when I'm mining and this is what's available in my area, did somebody test this particular card? There's a very high chance that somebody did. And even if they just had a cell phone video, they could help put a quick video together, get some exposure. And what I would offer to anybody that's wanting to do that, tag me on Twitter. If you make a video, I'll make this promise out to you guys. If you make a video, if you guys go through the effort to put it together, even if you have a 0 subscriber channel and you make a video, and it doesn't have to have graphics and all that stuff, that comes in time. Just make good content of being genuine with your setup, how you've configured it and what makes you comfortable and why it's running, and just make a quick video on that. And then upload it. You know, you could do some limited editing. There's free, I think DaVinci allows you to download. DaVinci allows you to, DaVinci Resolve is a piece of software you can download, and they have freeware versions of it to where you can go out there, or it might be a time limited version, but it allows you to go out there, do some editing, learn some basic editing on it, and then put out a video. And if you tag me on Twitter, I'll reshare it. I'll say, hey, you know, here's a new community member making some content, and just see if we can get some exposure to that. And what we'll do is we'll tag what you guys have tested. So it's community driven content. And as we start to create kind of, I don't want to call it like a a database of results, but how I've done testing and how other channels have done testing, having that entry of like, what's the AMD Power Color RX 6600 XT do on these 15 coins? What are the settings that work? There used to be a really good, this is right before I started the YouTube channel back in 2013. There used to be a really good spreadsheet that was on, it was a wiki based sheet that you could go out, and it was one of the highest settings if you looked up like mining hash rates. And this was like a Bitcoin mining hash rates and Litecoin script mining hash rates. And it was sorted top to bottom by GPU type. So it was brand, type, memory combo. And then there was like one comment box that would tell you, here's the settings, like here's the CG miner space, my address, minus a space address minus here's my settings, right? And that forever, that was just additive, and people would go out there in community of say what they did. And, I would spend literally an entire night testing out all these settings from the community. Now we've gotten into a world where there's a handful of channels out there that make content, and you kind of Google search it and you go right to YouTube and you try to find this. I think that we could start to get into a community collaborative, single website that we all contribute to. And then we can tag like who did it and have that kind of setup. And then it creates a very good single point of system of like all this data. It'd be really bonus if we put it on a crypto chain. Like somebody makes a front end and we can save these as content. That might be actually somebody to build. I have like 5 billion projects. I would love to build it, but like if somebody puts that on like Ravencoin or Ergo, or even like I would say put on Ethereum, but we'd all paid like $9 million to try to make a post. So that's probably no bueno, but like find something we can post out there, and then it's out there forever. So we have this like empirical evidence of like how these different GPUs work on different networks. I think that'd be cool. Kind of tangent on all that, but I think it's good stuff. Red Fox says, I just spent the last 6 hours testing his 6600 XT. And I bet you learned quite a bit there, my dude. There's like all that testing is like 80% like waiting for reboots and just waiting for a number and then restarting it. And then you get like maybe 20% of like good result. Like you're like, oh, this is it. Maybe I can tweak it a little more. It's a lot of work. Like everybody collectively puts a lot of work into this testing stuff. David DaCosta says, I would like a video on a spreadsheet on how to keep track of coins mined and price when mined. So there's a few different opportunities there that you can do to automate some of that. And with the BBT mining sheet that I have, which that's a good segue into other upcoming content, I'm updating the mining model. 3.1 is going to move to 3.2, which is going to be the post 1559. But in there, to answer your question, there is some content related to like what's happened after 1559, but there is also an API in there to where you could technically make spot prices or get spot price data based on when you actually had that time. I mean, effectively, there's a whole spreadsheet list since the beginning of time on a lot of those tokens, or at least Bitcoin, Ethereum, I think Litecoin's in there, Ravencoin, of when their exchange prices were, and it's by day. So there is a huge database of all that price data in that spreadsheet right now. If you go back to any of the mining model, or you wait to sometime during this week, you'll see an update to that. And then technically you could make a reference to the date and look at the spot price within that day. And if you pick like a median spot price, I think you'd be safe if you're doing your dollar cost or your dollar cost basis on that. I did see a super chat come in from Veza90 coming in. How do you think mining in the future ETH is going with proof of stake? Wait a minute. How do you think mining has a future after ETH going proof of stake? And also, when do you think ETH will go proof of stake? So this is, man, these guys are just lining up my video setup this week. So I swear I didn't set this up, my dude, but that is actually my next topic here. Is one of the videos this week's also is going to be what is the status right now on Ethereum proof of stake, and we're going to go through the punch list that the ETH teams have to go through to get us to the point of proof of stake. So what is ETH team 1? So Ethereum 1.0, the current, Ethereum that we're all mining, what is their punch list? What do they have to do? When is their next series of meetings? Ethereum 2.0 team, the beacon chain, what do they have to do? Have that out there as clear and concise as I can from you guys. So as I can find for you guys. So I'm going to go do the research this week, make sure where they're at in the process, and then look at when their current target is. Right now, with 5 minutes of research, it looks like their current target's after December. They weren't very specific on a date, but it looks like it's first quarter next year is what they're tracking, or they're trying to track to. So that's a wedge of time of when they're thinking of trying to get it in. So if they were working back from that date, you're kind of go backwards saying, I'm putting a line in the sand. I'm trying to hit it by this date. What has to happen before that? And that's where they're going from a project planning standpoint. There's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be planned. There's some basic outline of an annotated outline of what their architecture design, their transition plans are, their testing plans, all of that kind of stuff right now is being worked up. So this week, probably towards the latter part of the week, because I still need to spend some time Monday, Tuesday to refine that list, you guys will see a produced video that's going to talk to that particular topic of the merge itself. There will be a follow-on video, which is representing the 3.2 mining model update, where I take what's the current hash rate on Ethereum, what's the current hash rate on the other networks, and what has to happen for those other networks to absorb that hash rate, right? What's the price discovery need to be for those, or what happens? What ends up happening is the most efficient setups win, and mining drops off for a significant portion of people until some price discovery comes on some of those other tokens. So if you have an investment, or you're about to make an investment, you got to understand, before you go out there and buy a whole bunch of GPUs, if you have not done this yet, you need to understand that the current target is that the largest coin that's taking up 80+% of the entire world's GPU hash rate, once that moves away, then there's this large stack of GPU folks that already have hardware are going to be looking for a place to go. And where can they go? So, which just means that your yields and your payback and your ROI and all that stuff really goes away until a coin really steps up to take that place when it comes to profitability and keep other folks being able to mine, or new folks even to come into mine. So if you're midway through your ROI because you were able to get, RTX 3080s back in November, and, it's August and you're almost ROI'd, you still probably have a good 6+ months of mining with on them to, now come out of your ROI, be able to mine for a bit, and, actually make some level of a profit there. See if we got some other questions here. They say they'd be lucky to go POS in third quarter of 2022. I mean, even if they had everything ready by December, and what I mean by ready is they have code that they've ran in local testing and they feel pretty confident, they still have to set up test nets. They have to transition stuff. And mind you, this is a $200, $300 billion network. So you can't mess that up, right? So there needs to be fail safes. It needs to have an ability to fail backwards back onto proof of work. Like if the network freezes or a beacon freezes up or something happens, because now you have all of this new, load on beacon. Does the acetation stop? You have somebody make a configuration error and it starts creating a whole bunch of orphans as part of that process, which just occurred. So for the people not tracking, Beacon, there was somebody that had a misconfiguration in one of their proof of stake nodes. And because I guess it was a larger set of nodes, that configuration went to a whole bunch of them, and it started causing some orphans, and people started getting out of sync of when they came their turn to to do voting on essentially proof of stake, and it started having errors. And some people did some deep diving of like, why is my fail rate a lot higher, or why am I getting disconnected? It ended up being one group that had a misconfiguration and caused all this issue with proof of stake. And this is a perfect example of like where you take that federated stat, you've effectively taken the consensus mechanism and you've went to more a deterministic setup than a random. So the biggest difference of like proof of work versus proof of stake is you have you're completely random on you. We don't know who's going to win the next block. We put hash power out there as a contributor. All of us do. And then randomly one of us win, and randomly one of us are part of a pool that then does that lift for us of saying, okay, we have the right answer. We can create a new block, stuff some transactions in it, and everything goes as it's supposed to. Completely random. Proof of work. Then you have a setup where you have proof of stake, where is now kind of more of a federated kind of setup. They say it's decentralized, but the network is now a bigger owner of it. So you have a situation where it's a deterministic across an entire epoch, which is a range of blocks. It has been predetermined who those block producers are. So it's not random anymore. It's like predetermined. So now in that basic level, you've brought it up a level to where there's some deterministic things. And then what if one of those series of people that are part of that deterministic thing have something misconfigured? Well, then the network is not randomly reliant on anybody in the network. It's on this stack of already predisposed people, right? So, I mean, could that happen in a proof of work? What it would end up happening is if somebody was misconfigured and they couldn't produce a block, there's a high probability somebody else is going to find that block by the time they try to figure out their configuration, and the block height's going to move out, right? And all that would happen is the person that won the block in the proof of work side that had the misconfiguration would just get their work orphaned. And they would say, hey, sorry, bro, somebody else found this block. Cool story that you found it, but your stuff was misconfigured. Where in proof of stake, you like the network's reliant on you because you've been chosen to do the right stuff. So it's not a hit on proof of stake. I'm not trying to take a shot on proof of stake. What I'm saying is it's a different system. And with that different system, there's going to be growing pains. And that's one microcosm in a larger set of things that could happen with proof of stake that we just don't know about. ETH's version of proof of stake, right? Casper FFG, what they've done with proof of stake compared to other implementations of proof of stake that's out there and running, that's a lot more centralized and federated than where ETH's trying to go with it, right? Where ETH's trying to be more decentralized proof of stake than some of the parachains and other implementations like through Polkadot or Cardano or Binance Smart Chain, any of those that are super centralized by design. I mean, I don't care what they say about it being decentralized. It's not. So it's by a whole bunch of measures. And it is what it is. There's a trade-off. There's a trade-off on going for speed. There's a trade-off for, what are you trying to accomplish, right? When we use layer 2 stuff, we go much more into a more centralized, controlled, federated setup for the speed. And then when we're looking at, UTXO based, if we're talking Bitcoin, decentralized networks, we're leaving it to random chance and the consensus of an entire network, all agreeing on that business rule. So anyways, I kind of went into some of it because I tangent like that when I have no predisposed script. And you guys, I know you guys all know me for that. Like, I can go talk about this stuff all day long. I'm reading some comments. Yeah, wait, what question we got? From Twitch. 67 wants to know on Twitch. That's a great name, dude. So this 3090, I think, was 3,200 on the dot. So very high. These are supposed to be like, I want to say $18.99 is MSRP on a 3090, right? Because it was supposed to be $14.99 for the retail, the retail one that came from NVIDIA. The reference design, I think, was 1,500. Remember, because the 6,900, not this one, this is a 6,800. The 6,900 was 1,000. And then like this particular one, I got open box, which anybody that hasn't been to a micro center, if you have a micro center near to you, man, like troll it every day because they have these returns. A lot of people returning them. And I don't know if they're just not gaming as much or their friends can't get cards. They're not gaming. But like this 6800 XT was 898, which is still pretty high. Like these things were supposed to be like what 799 or so, but like it's still under $1,000 for a 6800 XT. So they are coming back down in price. But yeah, this was still 2,200. This is still about $400 more than it should be, honestly. The 3080 Ti here, the Aorus Master, was the funniest price ever. So Micro Center sold this to me for 1,559, and I totally told them that somebody in their pricing department was totally trolling Ethereum at selling it at 1559, not to be confused with EIP 1559. Any thoughts on VTC? Vertcoin? Vertcoin's been around for a long time. 2014, if I remember correctly. And yeah, it's a community coin. It's been out there. They've forked several times to try to keep it a GPU based coin. I put Vertcoin out there with like Feathercoin, where it's a great community, trying to do good stuff. It's just it never really got it even being an older coin, it never got onto a lot of exchanges, and that just hurts it because it hurts getting liquidity to it and provide at least the initial values that are required to really fuel development and development costs. No way you paid $900 for a 6800 XT. Yeah, bro. Let me bring this over. People are returning them, man, on some of them. That's what I said. Micro Center's bringing some of them back to reality. And I did leave some. I did. There's one GPU per month right now with Micro Center. There was a 580 pulse there, so an RX 580, and it was $200. It was like 214. I actually said in my Twitch or my Twitter post, I thought it was 100. I thought it was $114. I was like, oh my god, that's a great price. It was in their return section, but it was the Nitro 8 gig RX 580, and there was another guy behind me that was like building his first PC, and he was putting together like a very budget build. Like the guy was really on a tight budget. He's like, I'm trying to keep this really cheap. You didn't have a lot of money. He wanted to, he was just trying to build just a basic gamer. He was playing like Dota, on like a really crappy computer. He's like, dude, I'm playing on the oldest computer. It's like a second gen i7 with like an old GPU, my dudes. When I say old GPU, I'm talking like it was like a NVIDIA 6800 Ultra NVIDIA, which is like so old. I'm like, dude, that still runs? Like, you should sell that for like a relic piece. And he's like, dude, it's so slow. He's playing on lowest settings, and he just wants to play like 1080p gaming. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to buy this 580. You buy this 580 for $200. It's like the cheapest GPU you can buy right now, an RX 580 8 gig. And I want to say he's putting together it wasn't a 5600. I think he was getting a closeout on a 3600 Ryzen and like an open box motherboard for $59. 3600 Ryzen with some kind of package deal where it was really cheap. And real cheap case, like $50 case, Like the dude was built like all in. I think he was going to spend like $700 on this computer because the GPU was only $200. So I was like, dude, use this. Like, I would totally use this for mining, but like, you need to build your Dota dream, my dude. Paul Daughtery says, I had a 6800 Ultra AGP. Anybody that remembers those GPUs back in that day, it was like a race off of the 9700 Pro ATI graphics card. So it wasn't even really called AMD at the time. It was ATI 9700 Pro and then the 6800 Ultra GPU. And it was right at the time where people were making fun of Crysis. Like, can you play Crysis, yo? Remember those times? Anybody gaming around that time knows the 6800 Ultras and then the 9700. Those were good days. Party Dota says, "Yay!" Let me guess, dude. You play some Dota. Rob FRC says Micro Center open box clearance motherboards are amazing. He got his Maximus X Hero for $90 because it had a clearance and was open box for his 8086 build. So the 8086K is, for anybody who's confusing, that isn't from like 1903. That was Intel's kind of anniversary line. I want to say on what the 8000 series GPUs for the 8th gen Intel boards at the time. I'm going to bring up my Twitch where I can read some of the Twitch comments too. I don't think I'm getting Twitch also here. I wonder if I could do this multi-stream tab, if this actually shows. Folks on Twitch say something. I want to see if I actually see something. I don't actually see any chat at all on Twitch. I see YouTube. I don't see. Twitch. So one of the questions from Twitch was, when are more immersion videos coming? So Todd is up there. We finished a lot of the basic setup that you guys had seen to the dry cooler. BBT Todd's up there about to do a leak down test. So, which is where we're going to make sure all the fittings and everything are good. He is going to record that, and then I'm going to voice over it. Then I'm going to be going up there. Right now it's notionally like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks at the most, but I'm going to head back up there and we're going to dry everything out and then start to get the framework set up for the holsters for all of the motherboards and power supplies, get all of that built out, get the rigs, actually start moving some of the rigs into the setting there. And then we may get to the point of a pour. It might be just setting the two machines, the two tanks fully set up pre-fluid in the week. I don't know. It's going to take a little bit. That's almost 800 GPUs. So it's going to take us some time. But I want to take you guys through that. So right now, the testing that's going on up there right now, Todd is going to capture, and then I'll do voiceovers on it. Hopefully we'll have some stuff. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you guys will see that first on Twitter before it's a produced video. Let me get onto Twitch where I can actually see myself here. BitsBeTrippin, how did you feel about NFTs with Ravencoin since it's limited, unlike ETH? Yeah, so part of the interesting thing with Ravencoin, anybody that's not familiar with Ravencoin, whenever you mint stuff or you create a new unique, if it's a series of coins or if it's a series of tokens on there and you name them at the layer one, essentially, you burn Ravencoin. So it's like 500 coins to like mint a type, like if you would call it an NFT, but you could have one to many on that, right? So you pay 500 Ravencoin. Like I have the BBT token, and that token I can create, 21 million of something under it, right? So it would be BBT token dot whatever underneath it, and then I can have a range of smaller units of BBT tokens under there. But if you just mint an NFT, a unique item on there, I think it's like 5 Raven or so. Yeah, but you're burning it forever. So there's this natural supply curve. The problem with a limited fixed supply like that is at some point, as cool as that community is doing that, it actually will put a lot of pressure to stop it at some point. So I would assume what's going to happen is that a few large communities will come together, like, and build something like OpenSea, and under that will be like a wrapped version of Ravencoin that will set under a token issue, and then under that we'll have X amount of tokens that's where your NFT world's going to live, to where you're not burning the base fee of the Ravencoin itself because it is a fixed limited supply. At some point that world will transition to where it's going to have to use that other layer, which I think is a good thing actually in the long run, but it comes down to like who owns that supply kind of thing. And can it be done where it's not controlled by a particular entity or a series of entities? So now you have like a federation. It gets into the governance stuff that we're talking about, like with ETH right now, right? So I think Ravencoin have its own issues. Ubik, if they try to do it with Shinobi, have its own issues also, where you have like any kind of fixed supply kind of limit, or like ETH where it's trying to actually create deflationary. You have this like conundrum on the long term. On the long tail of it is where you're going to run into issues. It may have a very good high peak, but at some point it's going to have to reconcile that design, right? To where if you're going to have not infinite, but like a large sum of parts for like NFTs and stuff, there's going to have to be some kind of eventual reconciliation for it. Because then it's just because what the adverse part of it is it would get so expensive for you to create an NFT, kind of like what it is almost for Ethereum. What did we miss? Five. Oh, so Rainier says $5 for Ray's mic fund. Oh well, Ray's mic fund is right here. So we have Ray has his own mic now. We have the Shure mics and a Rodecaster Pro, like to control the Shure mics. So Ray has his own mics. But yes, that will be applied to that since we already paid for it. They want to get Raven on DeFi at the moment. Well, I mean, there's no doubt at some point that there'll be wrapped Ravencoin on one of the platforms. And it's the same thing. Like if I am talking like Ubik, like if somebody was talking about Ubik being, anybody doesn't know Ubik is essentially a fork of Ethereum. It follows a lot of the EIPs. It incorporates them as part of Ubik. It took essentially Uniswap and it created something called Shinobi, which is its own like swapping automatic market maker DEX system. And they have other tokens that are there that you can lock up in liquidity pools and all of that stuff. Well, Ubik also is on Polygon now, which allows you to do wrapped with Ubik and be able to buy Ubik on Polygon, right? And then eventually you'll be able to get it on Uniswap and all that stuff. So interoperable on these other networks without having to be on an exchange. Now, Ubik has I wouldn't call it a first mover advantage, but it has an advantage over a lot of other tokens that have clones of Ethereum that Ubik's listed on Bittrex. So it's actually on a large cap exchange where you can get Ubik. And if you mine Ubik and you get quite a bit of tokens and you're going long on Ubik, then right now it's like 33 cents. It had a peak of like $6. You can get a lot of it because the network's not there's not a huge amount of hash rate on the network. You have an ability to then, if you needed to liquidate some tokens to pay for your cost, you can do that with something like Ubik. Ravencoin, the same kind of thing, where eventually somebody's going to just put a wrapped Ethereum on, Matic or Uniswap, and then you're going to have wrapped RVN on there, and then you'll be able to interoperably go between that to where you're locking up real RVN in a smart contract, and you're creating a duplicate version of that one-to-one on an exchange, on this decentralized exchange, and that wrapped RVN now represents part of that supply, right? And then you would have this X amount of wrapped RVN. So then you would have this interoperability between everything to be able to sell and trade and all that kind of stuff. Is it worth reinvesting in the LHR cards when ETH 2.0 goes live? Well, ETH 2.0, once it goes live, I mean, there's every channel out there is going to be covering it with pretty detailed stats and numbers of what can you mine and where can you mine. The question on the LHR cards that I have is once ETH goes live, and if Ergo and all these other tokens get huge price discovery, so much that they can absorb all of the hash rate moving over from Ethereum, does that mean NVIDIA, updates their driver to now try to target, Kapow? Do they try to target, Ergo's algorithm, which I can't remember off the top of my head, starts with an A. It's like Aclosis or something. AKOSYNOI or OSIS or something. I don't know. But that algorithm, does LHR get updated to now target those in some specific way? And it's very hard considering like Kapow uses ProgPow. ProgPow really leverages the design of the GPU in a lot more graphics card kind of way. It would be the driver looking for specific functions that are occurring on the card that have to do with that particular algorithm, which I think could be defeated pretty quickly. But will they retarget updates to these cards on the NVIDIA side to now take impacts on, these particular cards? Because here's the one factor I will tell you guys. The concern that I have with LHR cards is NVIDIA has put a line in the sand. And just because it stops Ethereum mining by half right now, they've tried to de-incentivize. They have the legal wedge in place that if they update the driver to now target other GPU, different tokens, they technically can do that. So if you bought a 3080 Ti with the understanding of like, well, ETH's going to go away anyways, I'm going to put this on a different, algorithm. If they update that driver, that's the risk you're playing. So you're playing not only that, will you still have something to mine after Ethereum, you're also balancing that and reconciling that with, will NVIDIA also come back in and screw us over on these other algorithms because they left the name general enough, light hash rate, mode. I don't know what the R part is. Requirement, light hash rate requirement. I don't know. But light hash rate is very general, which hash rates are what these cards are doing. So it's a very interesting set of circumstances. Don't update the driver, says Ed. He's like, bro, that's easy. Like, just don't update your driver. Like, which I mean, that's a way to do it, right? And it's the same thing like in AMD, whenever they came out first with a blockchain driver, that was the one you had to use if you wanted to have your compute fixed. But again, it's one of those things, if you're for just straight mining purposes, if you're using Linux and it's out there, you could just run on a particular driver. But there's a lot of people that use these cards day to day for their gaming rig, and then they mine at night. And then, so their games are going to require them to have the latest driver. And then they're going to be out unless they do what the video part 6, I think it was part 6, was showing, where you put something like simple mining on a USB and you boot off that when you shut your computer down, you reboot, just let it run on simple mining, your gaming rig. And then when you're ready to play with it, just shut it off, take that stick back out, and then boot it up off your normal hard drive. You could do it that way. Light hash rate. Yeah, that's it. That's what the R is. That's so simple. Huh? It was part 6, yeah. Those are things that Mike should know what LHR means. Like, I sometimes you're so close you can't see it. Well, new miners are going to have a hard time. So the question was, how did BBT Todd and I get hundreds of GPUs for the farm? So those were picked up between the late 2016 into early 2017 years. So and those were picked up from MA Labs in Chicago. So first off, you have to create a business, and once you have a business and you have an EIN, you can call a place like MA Labs, which are out of Chicago. So it's M as in Mary, A as in Apple, space Labs. They are a distributor, and they have several locations, and they service, a lot of different places. CDW, not the food place. They service, Fry. Well, they used to service Fry's, and then Fry's went under. Micro Center. A lot of places buy from MA Labs, and you can create an account with them, and then you can bulk order once you have, a business set up. Now we can still try to bulk order, but we're going to be paying the full retail prices, right? So at the time, those RX 470 4 gigs, I want to say were $189. The 8 gig cards were $209 to $229 each when we bought those back in 2017. So very low CapEx cost. I mean, it was still 2,500 GPUs, but it was a very low CapEx. It's like $600,000 to $700,000 in GPUs, for 2,500 at the time, and it comes in pallets and bundles at the time. But those were mining edition GPUs. So before anybody that's found their way into this stream that is a gamer and is like, what is this miner talking about? And what did they just buy? And so these were mining edition GPUs. So these were designed for what we're doing. Now, they did take from the core count on the Polaris line, but nobody was knocking down doors for the Polaris line, if anybody remembers, because the Polaris line was going up against the NVIDIA GTX 10 series, and the 10 series was kicking AMD's butt up and down the spectrum pretty much in every category. So from the 1060s to the 1070s to the 1080s, the 1080 Ti's to the Titan, the 10 series Titan and before Titan V. AMD just sat on the shelves. So miners bought up the AMDs. And even into 2017 and 2018, when the Vega series came out, we had seen Vega 56 and 64. It's still, the 1080 Ti was running circles around it. So people just still used them for mining. And, AMD tried to get a pretty decent setup with HBM2, which ironically was just so much better for mining because of the HBM2 memory. Anybody that remembers HBM2 memory is before the Polaris line, you had the Fuji XT series, and for AMD, and those were Fury, so AMD Fury cards. So it was the 290s. It was between the R9 290s. You had the R9 290X2 cards, which was the 2 GPUs on a single board, and then you had a brief period where AMD had the Fury line, so the AMD Fury cards. And the only difference between like the R9 290 series was the Furies had HBM2 or HBM memory, so HBM1 memory, which was very high speed memory. And that was also there was a whole there weren't a lot of them. So I think I did one video on a Fury card back then because they were really hard to get a hold of. And then AMD came out with the Polaris line, which ended up being like light years better in almost every category than the R9 series that used a metric ton of power. Like an R9, there was R9 300 series. So there was the 390s, but those are very short lived too. And then the Polaris came, right? And the 390s were a lot. They were really close to the 290s in power. I mean, they were like maybe 30 watts on a card for the same hash rate. And then the Polaris line came out, which dropped power significantly. So on a R9 390, R9 290, you're going to use 210, 220 watts. You could get a R9 390 down to maybe 165 watts. A Polaris card, you can get down to 88 watts, all for the same hash rate. So half power reduction on moving over to that newer architecture. So at the time when the Polaris line came out, their problem wasn't mining hash rate. It was literally the issue when it came to the NVIDIA cards just being better in gaming across the board. And their just mining hadn't taken off as much. little history lesson there in the middle of these live streams. I love doing these like little like history lessons in the middle of that. Yeah, R9 Furies. So Paul comes in there and says R9 Furies had some of the water coolers on them. Yes, I think that's one that I did. I did a Fury XT. There was a Fury XT water cooled, and that radiator would burn your hand if you touched it. It got so hot. I think I had some thermals on it. If you guys look up BitsBeTrippin Fury, like Space Fury, you will probably find that video from back in like 2015, 2016, maybe early 2016. I did that review. And I think it's the first time I used my thermal gun on it. And I want to say that thing was probably Fahrenheit wise, it was 142 degrees, 145 degrees to the touch, which is pretty hot. Like that's like you have a dark painted car in the sun. I mean, those get up to like 160, 170 sometimes. But all right, guys, 51 minutes in. I'm going to wrap this up to be no more than 1 hour. I will try to give you guys timestamps after this. I try on the longer live streams. Besides the noob series, I'm not. Maybe we'll come back through if we have time to do timestamps. That might be a little task that we can do, but on the randomness stuff, I always put timestamps on. Are you very skeptical of 1559? It seems to have gone smoothly. Are you more positive now? 1559 really did not. I mean, for just if you're just a straight miner and not a user of ETH, I think there was some expectation management issues with 1559 that I had called out multiple times to that development team. Tim Binko on Twitter. It's out there for everybody to see. That part of my concern was the way they handled some of the communications there. And they can only do so much. They can send up smoke flares, but there should have been like a campaign. Like, how hard is it for Ethereum Foundation to make a website? These guys are on the bleeding edge, the edge of blockchain development. But make a simple website that says, here are the facts of 1559. Here's what it's going to do and what it's not going to do. You've had other people try to do that. But the foundation is kind of like the source of truth for that, for them. And then it would have set expectation management out there. Because I think a lot of wallet designs and stuff still have not been updated to take advantage of some of the predictive gas features. I think some of the results, I think the burn was super hyped, and it's been part of the discussion of like, you know, this whole ETH ultrasound money crap. But like, in reality, it's just everything's got ultra freaking expensive, and that's kind of, you know, like they're coming off like they're really high on success here, but people are just popping it with a pen, saying, "Well, dude, cool story, but like still to interact with a contractor or put something on OpenSea, I got to spend $100. Like what?" So part of that issue is really clouded, no matter what 1559's done from a larger block setup, you know, being able to double the block size and all that and have better targeting. It still is a issue that the fees and costs are very high, even though it's burning a crap ton of ETH and all that. So, you know, I think it all comes back down to user experience. I think that there would be a lot more. It's hard to see the positives of ETH on the surface with 1559 when the fees are so high. And it's always that it was never to address the fees. It just wasn't very marketed very well. Say the fees were burned. It was like you would start to have a conversation. Is my user experience at ETH going to get better? Hey man, we're going to burn a ton of fees, and that's going to make your value go up. Oh, that's cool. Okay, I guess that's cool. And then 1559 happens, and you're like, hey man, 1559 happens. This is cool. Oh wow, look at that burn number. That's pretty sweet. And then you go to use Ethereum, and you're like, that sucks. It's a lot more expensive now. And hey, it's cool that the prices went up $1,000 than it was like a couple weeks ago. But man, it's super expensive to use. So now you're kind of stuck in this lull of, I got ETH. I don't really want to sell ETH because it might go up. But I really don't want to use it because then I'm going to use a lot more of my ETH to use this network. So you're in this like iterative loop of like, when's it going to get better? And that's the problem they're having right now. So next up, let's change the consensus mechanism. Is it going to lower the fees? No. But let's change the consensus mechanism. Okay. Right. And then that's where we're at right now. So these are kind of over the bow shots to Ethereum Foundation right now on this, but like fix the user experience. Let's figure out get parachains working, get, side chains working, make the user experience of Ethereum and being able to do the things like post NFTs and all that stuff with a cheaper fee better, then go do the science experiment of changing the algorithm, right, to switch it over to proof of stake. That's been kind of my just genuine feedback on it. And because it doesn't help anybody that's new coming into this. So I was a little tongue in cheek there, my dude. And it's not even a BitsBeTrippin. I literally have water here today. It's a Sunday and I'm not doing BitsBeTrippin. Red Solo cup. I like the voice. You guys, so how's this mic, guys? I haven't polled everybody. We have 230 people here on, I don't know if that's on YouTube or if it's Twitch and YouTube combined, but even after 1559 coin is not deflationary. There are some times that it's been deflationary, so I will give them that, but it's not every time. Yeah, dude, like hit the like button. So the like button is like an algorithmic thing that YouTube uses to determine for it to share the video. So even if you don't have to do anything besides watch this video, if you just move that mouse up and click that like button, it's actually doing us a solid. So if you like the video, should be fine. Mike is killer. Sounds awesome. Awesome. This is the Shure. What is this? The Shure SMB7? Man, how do I remember these things? And these are the new framework frames, and they have like a little light on them. Which I got the controller, which is probably bad for me because I can like change it to different art. I guess these are for like. It just changes the color. Okay. It's like now it's blue. I think it's like if you're recording, you're supposed to set it to red or whatever. I don't know. And you change it for blue when it's on. Okay. That would be cool if it actually did that, like software or something. But I guess it's. Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, yeah. Because I think you turned it off and on. BitsBeTrippin, use renewables for mining. We are partial renewable in our energy mix at the farm. So it's up in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a co-op, and it does have hydro as part of our mix. I do not know what our total mix is. I don't think anybody does. I think everybody knows that this is you're part of a community of power input, and it happens to have X amount of hydro. You don't know what power you're getting at any moment in time. It's not that sophisticated yet. You could probably run some kind of weird trace back to figure out some aggregate of it, but it all comes about demand and what's the peak of demand and all that kind of stuff. So we are part of some hydro. I do know that. SM7Bs, welcome to the 1970s of recording studio. They're ancient. They're supposed to be pretty good. Actually, all the major podcasts use it. 1970. Yeah, we have some older mics here. Let's do a quick round about the networks. Ravencoin. Here, I'm going to switch over to the screen. We'll wrap up in this. This will take less than 5 minutes, and then we'll end this episode. Just open format. Do you guys like the open format? Let your comments down below or in the chat. Do you guys like the open format versus the news? There wasn't a lot going on the news side, so I always like kind of open format. I don't do this as much as I used to on this. I'm going to go over to here. Let's look at what's Ravencoin hash rate. Let's do some analysis here, my dudes. Hash rate. Let's do, where are we at? It's setting at about just under 7 terahash. So we had a little tick up. We were down, on June 30th, we were at 3.54 hash rate. And now it's not doubled, but it's pretty close to double. It's still not at its peak in April when it went to 27 cents, but I would assume that we'll go up to 10 if it gets back up to those figures again. Ravencoin's sitting right at 13 cents, almost 14 cents. It's been flirting with between 13.5 to 15 cents. I think I already had Ethereum's hash rate up here, which is we're at peak right now, I think. Ethereum is about to punch through its highest ever. So Saturday it was at 634 terahash. Before the bans in China and the price went down, we're right there. We're at peak of previous. So we had kind of a double top here. I think we actually broke peak. So highest hash rate Thursday, May 20th. We're about to break it. So May 20th was the highest. So far, we're literally right there. We're within hundreds of gigahash from popping the top off that. It will pop that top. I'm going to tell you right now, it will go past that. We are because the profitability right now being at $3,200, even with the burn, it'll still peak out to, I would say, 750 to 800 terahash. It could get that high before you really start seeing, the 20 cent to 12 cent kilowatt folks falling off. And the only people that stay on are under 12 cents per kilowatt, or people that just pay for the power and just deal with it. But that will drop yields another 20% if it goes up by that much. So whatever you're making right now, take that away by 20%. And that gives you kind of an estimation over the next 3 months if price stays flat. If price goes up, it's still going to keep going. Now, the offset with the price is if the price goes back up to 4,300, hash rate will go all the way up to 900 terahash plus and still be able to support it from a US dollar equivalent of what your hash rate is. Simple says, Simple Americast says, it's time to sum a rig. Why is BitsBeTrippin? One of the questions somebody has. Anybody that's ever listened to my very first video, if you're on YouTube, take note of this. Go to my oldest, I don't have it queued up here, my oldest video on YouTube, my very first video back in December of 2013, had here, I'll show them here. YouTube. Let's go here. Let's go to videos. Let's go to sort by. And let's go to oldest. So I'll show you guys the link here. And there is, I'll read it to you. And then they can go listen to it on their own time. So BitsBeTrippin came from a little ditty here. Machines pushed to the limit, that's day and night. Bit, light, and Feathercoin, a new way of life. Killer hash getting paid a bit at a time. I want a mine, set me up and let me get mine. Making money when I sleep, that's a good night. When I wake up in the morning, I'm selling, flipping. 100%, they need all of my attention. If I don't give them that, the bits be tripping. And for anybody that's been in mining, I hopefully think that it would hit pretty hard for you. So yes, that's where it came from. So it was a little ditty at the time. There were really only there was only three coins really that you could mine. It was Bitcoin, Litecoin, Feathercoin. Bitcoin, Namecoin, and Purecoin were the SHA 256 coins. And Litecoin was a script coin, and Feathercoin was a script coin that came out shortly after Litecoin. So at the time when I made BitsBeTrippin, this is what we were mining. Somebody go, not James says, man, he just was spitting bars, my dudes. Here's a bigger question. We have 237 people here. The person that wrote that and actually made this song, CZ, is actually related to me. It's my brother. And he has a few times offered to rewrite, or not rewrite, leave this, but extend this to a full song, incorporating some of the new mining stuff. Would you guys want to hear or see that at some point? Mind you, I think this is the oldest Bitcoin rap song too, by the way. By like a year, because I don't think any of the other folks came out and started making rap songs until about 2014. So that's funny. But I think that was a good one to do it up on. So that little ditty at the end. One of these days, somebody will throw that into a little mini video. So a new BBT song. Hell yes, please. Somebody says. Yeah, we've talked about different things to put into it. Release it. Put on SoundCloud. Keep it fresh. Making an NFT audio track. There you go. Yeah, Dream Loops is an NFT that does it. All right, my dudes. It was good. It was fun. It was real. It was fun live. Make sure you like, subscribe, and sharing. Uh, definitely hit that like button. That it does help. All you Twitch folks, we will get it figured out on the chat for I can interact with you guys. I did see Hollerin did up his Twitch Prime. Thank you, sir, for doing that. That gets you a whole bunch of icons. We actually have some new icons coming out. I had some new ones created, some little graphics card things that we're going to do an NFT thing on, but we're also going to update the some of the Twitch icons because they've been out there 33 months in a row. By the way, Hollerin's a long time Twitch sponsor, chatter, been around. Awesome. All right, my dudes.